In the current Daf Yomi, the Shabbos of Kafches, we begin 4 lines down at the top of the Yamid. We continue to explain the halacha of our Mishnah, which opened up this 14th parak, Shabbos Schwartzberg, which first we discussed regarding the 8 types of shrotzim and other shrotzim, regarding the halachas of chavala and regarding that of tzeda, and then we went into that of other animals, which is where our Gemara is going to begin, which is really related to that of qualifying something as oir. If it's considered it has skin, that is related to the malach of chavala. Is it going to be considered chavala? Because then the blood has to be released, and then it gets stuck into the skin, which that's if it has a distinct element than the meat itself. Ashish corresponds to Bekazach and Echeskel Torah Tam Daf. Appreciate joining us for the shiur. Some ideas we're going to speak on today's daf is the hides of birds, the skin of fish, and whether they may be used as parchment for tefillin, which that's going to come into the halacha that we're discussing regarding that of considered as or as hides. A story about Rav's arrival in Bavel, which relates to the halacha discussion of today's daf, and some other halachas that are brought up. The next Mishnah continues with what kinds of brine and salt water may be made on Shabbos, which there's a problem of it's similar to ma'abed of canning, which is there's a salting process that goes on over there. That's discussed in the next Mishnah. Additionally, places not to touch before Natil's time in the morning because of danger that it could be to those orifices. So in terms of concepts we can talk about today's daf is called nekev shadyoy verisulav in a nekev, which generally you can't write on a piece of paper, a parchment that has holes, because then the letter is not going to be complete. But if the ink goes over it, that's not considered as a hole. To be a halachic problem for writing the Sefer Torah with its phone. Additionally, the pasuk says, "L'mantir Torah Hashem beficha." When it talks about the halachas of tefillin, it says that the Torah Hashem should be in your mouth, which that teaches us that the hides of the scroll have to be min hamutar beficha. The type of animal that's permitted for you to put into your mouth that's kosher. That's what we learn at the halacha has to be on the leather of a kosher animal. So begin the current daf. We explained the Mishnah after we discussed the Shloimy Schwartzberg, which we discussed on the previous daf, and other shrotzim or masim. So he said the chayiv ha'oif v'chulu. Then we went to wild animals and the birds. So he said that if someone is chayiv bad, if you make a wound in the bird or into the wild animal, so you can be chayiv, because as we explained, the yesh lehen or they have hide, they have skin, which is a separate entity than their flesh, and therefore if you injure them, that's ein chayzeres. It goes into the skin, which is a separate entity, and then you be chayiv for chaval. Now related to this, the Gemara brings in the following halacha. Amar Rav Huna. It says, Kaisvin tefillin al gabi or shal oif tahar. You can write tefillin on the skin of a kosher bird. So on that, Rabbi Yisrael says, my kamashma, what's he teaching us? The islay or, meaning you have to write your tefillin on leather. So what are you telling me, that it's considered as skin, as leather? Meaning it's not like flesh, which you can't write on flesh? But Tanina, that's the halach of the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, Achayil ben chayiv, as we just quoted, if you make a wound in a bird, you chayiv, which obviously yesh lehen or, they have skin. So of course you can write on that. What's the chiddush? And we know that we're talking about it's a kosher bird, so it's kosher skin. So what's the chiddush? So Amal Abai says, no, tuba kamashma, no, he is teaching us something. Because the Imam Stin, had we only know the halach of the Mishnah, yes, we would know that yesh lehen or. We already know from the Mishnah, Achayil ben chayiv, that they have skin. Fine, we know that criteria. But how I would have thought to say, kivan the isbi nikfi, in the skin of a bird, where the feathers come out of, there are these small little holes. So loy, I would say you're not allowed to write a Sefer Torah on it, because the Torah says for tefillin and for mezuzah, uchasavtam. Uchasavtam means kesiva tama, chasavtam, which means it has to be complete and not interrupted. So I would say that you cannot write on the skin of a kosher bird because there's holes. So you're writing it and like it's not a full letter because it's going into those holes. That's what they're coming to tell you. Like they say in the West in Eretz Yisrael. Any hole that the ink goes over it, doesn't get stuck in the hole. Ain't a nekev. It's not considered quote as a hole to be problematic, and therefore it's going to be kosher. And that's the chiddush of Rav Huna's teaching. You're right. The halacha of or we know from the Mishnah, but we wouldn't have known. We would have thought it's problematic simply because there's the holes in it. That's what we have to tell you that no, it is going to be kosher because the ink goes over it, and therefore it's not problematic. However, the Gemara asks, Meisvei, Reb Zer asks, the pasuk says in the Yikra, it says b'chnafav, with its feathers, which this pasuk is by the oila sa'if. There are certain karbanos that are birds. It's talking about here by the oila, which is totally burned carbon of the bird. Now, the pasuk is telling us that you do what's called shasiya, which is you partially tear the bird with the wings still on it, and you sacrifice, you burn on the mizbech with the wings. The whole wing is sacrificed on the mizbech, which that tells us, says the Brisa, lahachshir sa'ar, which is validating to sacrifice on the mizbech the skin. which that's a big chiddush because the pasuk is essentially telling you by the bird that you don't have to do what's called hefshit. By a regular oilas behema, by a regular animal, although all of it is burnt on the mizbeach, that's what oila is, it's totally burnt sacrifice, you first skin the animal, you take off the skin, which it's invalid to sacrifice it with the skin. But by the bird carbon we say that no, you leave the skin on it and you're going to burn it with the skin. So that says the Gemara, if you're trying to say that a bird, as we're trying to say in the halacha of the Mishnah, that it is skin, so then then how could the pasuk tell you that you're going to burn it without skinning it? What do you mean? The skin, like we see by an animal, doesn't go onto the mizbeach. So if you tell me that by the bird it does go on, obviously we consider like the flesh, not like the skin. So how could you tell me that you could write a sefer Torah because it's considered oir? If it's oir, then why are you burning it on the mizbeach? Adam Labai says, what do you mean? Oirhu, it is skin. Rachman, Rabbi, and the Torah is including it from the word b'chlavav. It's coming to do that, even though it's oir. So therefore, it's not a difficulty to say that actually it is oir, and therefore, like we said in the Mishnah, you are chayv making chavala because it is oir, and that you could write as a tefillin on the skin of a bird because it is oir. It's just that regarding the laws of the mizbeach, the Torah includes that you're going to burn. Those say a different version the other way, that it's not as a question, but it's actually as a support. Amr says, he says, actually we learned this halacha that not as a question but as a support. It says b'chnafav regarding the oilas that with the wings, that's l'ramis asar. That comes to include the skin of the bird, unlike the oilas behema, the animal sacrifice oila, that you skin it first, here you don't skin it. And that he proves. He says, if you say like we're saying that you could use the skin of a bird for writing tefillin, obviously it's or, it's skin. That's why we needed a pasuk to come to conclude that you're going to sacrifice it. But if you would say it's not skin, why do you need a pasuk to include it? If the bird skin is not skin, it's like the flesh. Of course you're going to burn it. Obviously from the fact that you come to include it, then obviously that it must be that it's skin. He rejects the raya. He says no. Truth, I can tell you, lavar. It's really not skin. I could tell you that. And you would still need to have the inclusionary terminology of bechnafa. Why? So you would have thought to say keeping this big pirtzi, since there are these little holes in the bird skin. It's repulsive. So that says kamashma. That's the chiddush that we say that you are going to sacrifice. I mean, maybe it's really not skin. It's not skin. So why wouldn't you burn it? Because it's disgusting. We don't put things that are disgusting on the mizbeach. So to tell you that no, Chalav tell you that you are going to burn it. So again, he holds that it's not a raya. So there were two different versions. One was asking the question and says it's not a difficulty. The other one's trying to support it from that same text of the brisa, and then on that he was rejecting the raya, say it's not going to be raya. Similar type of discussion. The Gemara says we were just discussing writing tefillin on the skin of a bird. On this boy b'nei marbarei Ravina Rav Nachman Yitzchak says ma'ol lichtav tefillin. What's that love? Can you write tefillin al gabe urshel dagtar? Can you take the skin of a kosher fish? What's the halach? Somebody said to him, Yavel Eliyah is going to come and he's going to tell us. So I think about what does he mean to say the Eliyah is going to come and tell us? If it's because of it's permitted or forbidden, it doesn't have anything to do with Eliyah Navi. Loi b'shamayim. Eliyah Navi is not going to come and tell us what the halach is. We get to decide. Us, the Rabbanim. It was given to the Chazal, to the Jewish people. So what do you mean if Eliyah Navi is going to come and tell us? What does that mean? Elam, if you think it's going to be the Islay Ar that he's going to come and tell us if it has skin, either less lay Ar if it doesn't have skin, meaning the facts, that he could come and tell us what the facts. We don't know if it's skin, then you could use it because it has to have Ar. If it's not skin, then you cannot use it. So what do you mean? Hachazin Islay Ar. First of all, we see that fish have skin. So we know that it has Ar. What do you need Eliyah Navi for? V'oid hotznan. Moreover, says the Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah Masechtas Kelim. The Mishnah says, Atzmois hadog v'oiroi, the bones of fish and its skin, matzilin ba'il hames, it saves in a tent that has a dead person, because they're not makabel tumah. As we learned in the Bryce and Taras Kainim that says hides are makabel tumah. So you would think that the hides of the sea creatures would also be. It says no, the hides of like fish are not makabel tumah. So do the bones of fish. That although we say in the Torah that kli etzim, vessels made out of bone are makabel tumah, but that we learn that from kol ma'isi izim. That's where we learn out that bones are also included from all the things related to goats. But that only includes things that come from goats, and their horns and their hooves. But fish is not included. So the skin of fish and the bones of fish are not makabel tumah. Now, whatever is not able to contract tumah, it actually creates a chatzitza. It actually is an interposition from tumah. So if let's say you're in oil mess, and there's the bones of fish or the skin of fish, and underneath that is something that protects those things. It's a chatzitza, it's interposition, as the Mishnah teaches in Masechtas Kelim. So one thing is that we see that it's to make a separation, and it's not like the meat. It's not like the meat of fish, which is considered something that's mekabel tuma. It's the bones and it's the skin, and the skin is obviously a distinct thing from the flesh. So how could you say that it's dependent on Eliyahu coming and telling us? We know that it has oil. So rather, Eliyahu says the Gemara, no. Im Yaveh Eliyahu is going to become, the Yomi is going to tell us, Ipaska Zumine. If the smell has been removed from it, Eloi Paska Zumine, or if the smell is not removed from it. In other words, fish skin is smell. Going to a fish store. You know, you're in a fish store, even if they blindfolded you and they put you in, it has a strong smell. So you're right. We know that it's a kosher animal. We know that it has skin, but it still might not be valid for tefillin. And therefore, the Gemara doesn't answer the question. When we wait for Eliyahu Navi, what's Eliyahu Navi come? He said, "Shmekt? Does it really smell? Does it not smell?" That fact we don't know. That Eliyahu is going to tell us if that's valid to be used to write a tefillin on or not. Now, related to this halacha of writing tefillin, the Gemara reads the following story that Shmuel v'Karna havayasra gudid in Nahar Malka. Shmuel and Karna were sitting by the bank of the royal river called Nahar Malka. Chazinu l'may de Kodola, they saw the waves of the river that were rising. The waves were lifted up, and they were turbid. They were mixed up. They were violent waves. So Shmuel said to Karna, "Gava Rabba Kasim Emerabba. You know what? There's a great person coming from the west, from Eretz Yisrael, and he's having stomach pains. And the waters are lifting up to go and greet him," which Rashi has two interpretations. Either means to say that when he's going to the bathroom, it's going to make a wall that he's relieving himself by the walls of the boat. No one should see him relieving himself, so it's coming to like cover him. Or Rashi says it's coming to wipe him. And why were the waters turbid? Because it's like an idea of pain. Because of his pain, so the water was also like in pain, where it was violent, the waters. Now, Rashi explains, since Shmuel saw that there was no winds, but yet he saw the waters like waves, he understood that it must be something supernatural over here, that it's for the dignity of this great person, and therefore he was able to realize, and since the river was coming from Eretz Yisrael, he realized someone's coming from Eretz Yisrael. And why are there no waves? But there's no winds, but the waves are going up like that. He understood there must be a great person that's just coming, and he has a stomach ailment, and the waters are going up to either cover him or to help wipe himself. So he says, "Zil toiloy kankani, go and smell and sniff by his keg to see if he's wine or if he's already soured. In other words, check him if he's a sage or if he's not." So he went and he encountered, and who was it? It was Rav. So this was Rav coming from Eretz Yisrael. So Karna said to him, which was related to the previous Gemara's discussion, he asked him 3 questions. He says, "Minayin shein kosher tefillin, how do we know they don't write tefillin only on the skin of a kosher animal? How do you know?" Somebody says, because the pasuk in Shemais. It says in the pasuk Lamanti, it says Hashem Beficha, so it should be that the Torah of Hashem should be in your mouth. What does it mean it should be in your mouth? What do you mean? The tefillin you put on your arm, you put on your head. It means minamut beficha. It means from that which is permitted to go into your mouth. So that's how you know that has to be from a kosher animal. Okay, that's why we brought in this story, because it relates to the previous Gemara's discussion. Then they asked him a second question. How do you know that blood is red? Meaning, in the context of menstrual blood, the laws of nida, that the halacha is that it's running dam. A Mishnah in Nida Daf Yomi says that there's 5 types of blood that are tummy by a woman. Now, all of them because they're shades of red. But although one of them is actually black, the Gemara tells us that black is really red that just got deteriorated, so it became black. But really, it's all shades of red. There's different color. That's what Maris are for. That it's not everything that comes out of the woman that's considered as menstrual blood. This can be tummy. So how do we know that the blood is only tummy as needed if it's red? Shenema, because Rav answered him, it's a pasuk in Malachim Beis. It says v'yiru moyav mineged, that Moav saw from afar as Hamayim the water. There was adumin kedam. It was red like blood. See that blood when it says dam, it refers to Adon, that it's red, and that's how we know that when it says by Dam, by the laws of Nida, that means that it's going to be red. So he asked him the third question, interesting question. How do you know circumcision is in that place, in the male member? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah. So it says, Nemar Kanka says over here by Bris Milah, or Lasai, his blockage. V'nemar there's a pasuk in the Yikra, that's by Net Ravai, by the fruits in the first 3 years. That it says Arlasa, his blockage, which you not only eat the fruits of a tree in the first 3 years, which is also like blag, Malal, and just like over there, Davashai Sapri, it's something that's making fruits. Afkan Davashai Sapri, also over here, it's something that produces fruit. And therefore, that's how we know that's referring to the male member. Now, it says like maybe it's referring to the person's heart. Why the heart? The pasuk says Devar. It says Amaltim as Arlas Lavavchem. You're going to cut away the blockage of the heart. Maybe it's referring to the person's ears, because the pasuk says Yimiya Hine Arela Azman. Behold, their ears are blocked. So maybe that's where you do the bris milah. It says no. Done in Arlasai, we evaluate where it says Arlasai Tama, that's complete, meaning in its letters. It tells you Arlasai, his Arla. We learned that Amma Arlasai Tama from another pasuk. It also says Arlasai, complete. It tells you exactly his Arla, which is by the fruits of the Arla tree. They ain't done the Arlasai Tama. You don't only know where it says a complete word Arlasai by the Mila, Ma Arlas Sheina Tama from the word Arlas, which is not complete, where that's not a complete terminology because it doesn't say in that word which Arla. When it talks about the ears and the heart, it says Arlas. It doesn't say Arlasai. So Arlas what? So it says Lavavchem, but it doesn't say in its own word itself Arlasai. So here by the Arla fruits and by the bris milah, both of them say Arlasai, it's Arla. So therefore that's more comparable, and that's how we know that the bris milah is ba'isei makom. Now, after this conversation between Karna and Rav, so Amalei Rav said to Karna, "My shmach, what's your name?" So this is Karna. So Amalei Rav said to me, "Rav did typically Karna be'ein." He was using a play on his name. He said, "May it be the will of Hashem that a horn grow in his eye." He used Karna, which is his name, as Karen, as a horn should grow out of his eye, because he understood that he was coming to test him and he was just bothering him, he was badgering him with all these questions. Now, Masayif Aile Shmuel base at the end, Shmuel brought Rav into his house. Uchli Namad Desari gave him barley bread to eat. For Kasa the Harsan fish hash. Va'ashke Shikha gave him beer to drink. And the reason why he was doing this is because all these are diuretics. Shmuel was a doctor, and these foods were going to make his bowels loose. Now, and he didn't show him the lavatory, the bathroom. Now, he had to hold on to that. So it's churning and churning around in his stomach. And he did it so that he should have diarrhea, that it should all come out, because he understood that Rav had a stomach ailment, as he knew from the book. Now, Rav not knowing this, but realizing this person is paining him, so Rav cursed him and he said, "Mandim etzara," and whoever is paining me, le'lukmo le'bane should not have any sons, and that's the way it was. And that is Shmuel only had daughters, and he didn't have any sons because of the curse of Rav. Now the Gemara actually says, Kitanoi, that actually this halacha of the last question that Karna asked him regarding how do you know the bris milah is ba'isa makom in the place of the male member, it's actually machlekes Tanoi. Benayim milah ba'isa makom says the Tana, how do you know the bris milah is in that place? So the first interpretation is like Rav said, by the bris milah it says his blockage, by the fruits of the fruit tree in the first 3 years that you're not allowed to eat, so the blockage is over there. Malan just like over there, Davashai Sapri, something that makes fruits. Afkan Davashai Sapri, also over here, something that makes fruits. That's the Rabbi Yishin. Reb Nasna, he says a difference. So it says no in the Tzarech. You don't have to have a Kalam Gzeir Shabbat. Hareyo Emor. The pasuk in Bris Milah itself in Bereishis says Va'aral Zachar Asher Lo Yimas B'Sar Lasai, and the arla of a male which will not be circumcised in his flesh will be punished. Now, why is it Aral Zachar? Why didn't you just say Va'aral? Because Malkum Shenikra bin Zakras Lanakras. It's the place that you can differentiate between a male and a female. Oral Zachar. What's the place that you can differentiate between a male and a female? It's Isa Malkum, it's the male member, and therefore that's how you know that the bris milah is by Isa Malkum. Now, continuing on this theme regarding the hides of an animal as they're valid for tefillin, so Termalina Brisa, which continues on these same ideas. Kaisin tefillin like we said, you correct tefillin on the skin, as we generally use a cow, a kosher animal, we use the hides of a cow, and that's what we use to make parchment out of. We write the tefillin on the skin of a kosher animal, and also you go to a wild animal, as long as it's kosher, you can write on its skin. And even Magabi or Neveil it doesn't have to be slaughtered. It could even be if it was Neveil, if it died, or if it's a treifa, or if it had a fatal injury, you could use such an animal's skin to go ahead and write the tefillin on that. Now, so too, b'nechrachis, you wrap the parshias, their scrolls itself, the sarin and the hears of these kosher animals. After you wrap the scrolls and they're here, then you put them into what we call a batin, into the actual case of the tefillin, and the netvar is begida. And you also sew them with the sinews. You look at your tefillin and you see that the stitching of the tefillin batin is with sinews, with the tendons of a kosher animal. Now, Parenthetically, says the Brayso of Allah Meshim Sinai, and it's Allah Meshim Sinai. Shatfil Nechrachis Besam and Tvaras Begin. This that we're saying that you have to wrap the parashas in the hair of a kosher animal, and you have to sew the bottom with the sinews. That's Allah Meshim Sinai. Says the Brayso, and what you cannot write on is you cannot write on the skin of a non-kosher animal, not on the skin of a wild non-kosher animal. I don't have to tell you for sure that if it died or if it was a treifa from the non-kosher animal, for sure you cannot write on the skin of such an animal. And so to you cannot wrap the parashias of the tefillin in their hair. You cannot sew the bottom with their sinews. Now, regarding this brisa, this was the question that the Beisusim were a group like the Tzeduki, that they had their teachers, Tzaddik and Beisis, they're two heretics that they were Jewish, but they denied the oral law, and they only kept the written law, and they caused a lot of difficulty for the Jewish people. And he asked Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg the following question. He says, he asked him this question: how do you know that you don't write film on the skin of a non-kosher animal? So he says, because the says the pasuk in Shemais. It says, so the Torah of Hashem should be in your mouth. What does that mean, in your mouth? When you're not putting the tefillin in your mouth, it means it has to be from something that's permitted to go into your mouth. So you asked me, if that's the case, you said in the previous brisa that the skin of a kosher animal, but it's an avela treifa, you could write the tefillin on that. But why? But you're not allowed to put that in your mouth. You're not allowed to eat even from a kosher animal if it just died. It's not kosher. It's treifa, as we call it, if it wasn't properly slaughtered. So why are you allowed to use that skin to write your tefillin on? Somebody said to him, he says, I'm going to give you a parable, what this could be compared to. Two people that were going to be executed by the government. One of them, the king killed them. And one of them, the chief executioner, he killed him. Who's superior? If the king himself comes out to kill him, that's considered a sign of superiority than he sends his executioner to kill him. Now, on the Vela and Treifa, who's killing them? Hashem. Shchita is the human killing them. So as long as it's a kosher animal, that's what we say, mina muta b'ficha, means the species that's muta b'ficha. But if you're going to let Shchita, which a human killed them, for sure in the Vela Treifa, that Hashem killed them. So then he asks, but that's the case, says this by Susi, then Yechlu. Then if you're saying that Hashem killing is better than a human killing, so when you do shchit, you're allowed to eat it. Then if Hashem kills it, for sure you should be able to eat it. So then Amalei said to me, the Torah says in Devarim, don't eat any animal that died by itself. And you're saying that we should eat it? The Torah says you can't. You're right, based on the Kabbalah that we're giving me, you should be able to eat it, but the Torah says you can't. Amalei said, he says, that's a very good reasoning, he says that he gave a good shot why that is, that, even if it's in the Vela Treifa, it's more honorable if killed by God, and therefore you correct the tefillin on that too. So we continue with the halacha, the next Mishnah, continuing with a toilada, a derivative of the malacha ma'abed, of tanning. Tanning is we actually had in the original version of the 39 malachas, there was moileach and ma'abed. The Gemara says, no, that's the same thing. Salting and tanning. Salting is one of the processes of tanning. So we'll see actually in our Mishnah that there's some types of salting that's actually a derivative of the malacha ma'abed, and therefore you cannot make certain salt mixtures because that's in the procedures done in ma'abed, which you now do ma'abed on Shabbos, and therefore that comes into the halacha of our Mishnah regarding making a certain type of salt mixture. It says the Mishnah, Ein Oisen Hilmi b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to make Hilmi, brine, on Shabbos. As you continue to the base. But you could make salt water. And the Gemara is going to explain, well, isn't salt water the same thing as brine? But that's what the Tanna Kama says. You could make salt water, but Taival Ben Pita, and you could dip your bread into it, and you could also put it into the cooked dish that you're making. That's the Tanna Kama. On that, Rabbi Yisi says, he says, what do you mean? Who Hilmi? It's the same thing. That bein meruba bein mu'it. Whether you're putting a lot or you're putting a little, if a lot is forbidden, then even a little is also forbidden. And if a little is permitted, then a lot should also be permitted. The Gemara is going to explain that Rabbi Yisi is going stringently. He's saying that actually, whether you put in a lot or a little, it's going to be forbidden. Because that's like ma'abed, which is the process of tanning. And you're fixing all the food that you put inside of it, that it should last. Why is that ma'abed? Because you want the food to sustain. You're salting something. Salted meats last a long time. That's like ma'abed, and therefore that would be problematic. So rather says the Mishnah, so then So then what's actually permitted to be done? He says even a small amount is forbidden. So what is, let's say, a type of salt water that would be permitted? It's a nice and shemal ketchila. If you first put in oil into the water before you put in the salt, or you put in the oil into the salt before you put in the water, because what the oil does, that prevents that the salt's not going to mix so well with the water, and it weakens the strength from being very strong salt water. But if you don't put in if you first put in the salt and the water, even if you can put in the oil at the end, you already violated it from the moment you put in the salt and the water together, and that already looks like ma'abed. So the only way you're allowed to do it is you first add the oil before to the water or to the salt, then that's going to be permitted to have salt water, because that's going to prevent it from working as such a good chemical procedure in the ma'abed. It's not going to have that if you put in the oil before either one of the two ingredients that's necessary to make this brine to be a problem of the malacha of ma'abed. So the Gemara first says, "My kama." What exactly was the Tanna Kama saying when he's saying this hilmi, and there's, we said that you can't make hilmi, can't make brine, but you can make salt water. What does Tanna Kama mean? So that Amr Yehuda Amr Shmuel says, and this is what the Tanna Kama meant. You're not allowed to make brine, which is a lot of salt water, but you can make a small measurement of salt water. That's what Tanna Kama says. That the Mishnah quote Amr B'Yisi says, it says, what do you mean? That's the same thing. Hilmi is both. It's the same thing. Whether you have a lot or a little, why calling this brine that's problematic, this salt water that's permitted, it's the same thing. So that thing where it says, the following question, which we already explained as we were saying the Mishnah. Rabbi Yasi, that he says that both of them are the same. Well, is that the same lesser, that they're both prohibited? Or lahator, he's saying that they're both permitted. So then Rabbi Yehuda says lahator. He's saying that they're both permitted. Why? His raya is from the fact that the Mishnah didn't say Rabbi Yasi Eiser. Well, if he said that both are, if he was saying that both are forbidden, he should have just said that it's forbidden. For the fact that he didn't say that, obviously, when he's saying that they're the same thing, is that they're both permitted. Rabbi says, what do you mean? Look at the Seifa. The Seifa of the Mishnah, right after we quote Rabbi Yisi, it says, wow, so what is the type of salt water that's permitted? So he said, is if you put in the oil first. Now, Machlal, Rabbi Yisi, the inference obviously is that Rabbi Yisi, who was right before that statement, was obviously lesser, saying that it's forbidden. And that Helmi and Meimelech are both forbidden. And that the Mishnah continues. And if you want them to be permitted, put in the oil first. So Elam Rabbi disagrees with what Rabbi Yehuda said. He said it's lesser. Actually, Rabbi Yisrael is saying that they're both going to be forbidden. Rabbi Yehuda says lesser, that they're both forbidden. The Brisa, like the way we explained the Mishnah. You're not allowed to make salt water to put into things that you're pickling. You pickle certain vegetables, that pickled vegetables last a long time. Distra, that's in a broken earthenware shard, which is not really usable, and therefore they would designate it for just pickling types of vegetables. So that you can't do on Shabbos. But you can make a small amount of salt water, you can eat your bread with it, and you can put it into the cooked dish, that's like the Tanna Kama of Mishnah. On that, Rabbi Yisi says in the Bryce is because there's a little halal asnun, so this is forbidden, this is permitted. As he says, they're going to say, a large malacha, that's forbidden. Malacha mu'at is mutaris, but a small malacha is permitted. What does that mean? What's the difference of a lot or a little? Rather, and this is where we see clearly in the Bryce, like we explained, rather both are forbidden. He's coming to be machna. And that's what he continues. So what permitted type of salt water is nice and shem and melech. If you put in oil and salt, or oil and water, as long as you don't put in first the water and the salt together first before the oil, that's where it's going to be problematic. As long as you don't do that, then it's going to be permitted. So it's clearly that he was being machna. Now the Gemara brings in the manik, which are teachings from Rabbi Yehuda Chaviva, which are azan, strong, tznaim, radish, ve'esig, and esig. Similar that's namanik for these three teachings, all from Rabbi Yehuda Chaviva on this topic that we're discussing. So Tanei Rabbi Yehuda bar Chaviva, he taught the following brayso. Now I'm going to make strong salt water. And before I should explain even a small amount. It's very strong. You cannot make that on Shabbos. It says my melech azan. What's considered strong salt water? So Rabbi Yisi bar Abba they both say it's kol shabei tzafamem. If the egg floats in it, and that because of the salt, as we know, like anyone went to the Yam Melech, you float in there, so it's prevented from being submerged. If the egg is floating, that's considered very strong salt water. That now they make on Shabbos. It says Kama, and how much is considered a lot of salt? So Mapai says treat tilsa milcha, it's 2/3 salt, but tilsa mayim, or 1/3 water, that's considered very salty. That would be a ratio that would be forbidden to make on Shabbos. Now, says Abdullah, what do people use this for that you're saying that it's a preserver, that it's forbidden to be done? So Rabbi says Lamor Yasa. They would do it for fish brine, which is a type of a brine that's a preserver. That's something that is forbidden to be done on Shabbos. Second teaching is Tan Rabbi Yehuda Bar Chaviva. He says, Ein Molchin Snoin Debei B'Shabbos. Not a salt, a radish, or an egg on Shabbos. Now, what that means to say is, like, if you have 3 or 4 pieces together, the salt is like doing ma'abed. It's like tanning it. Why? Because what happens is it becomes hard, and that's a tikkun for it. It lasts a long time now. That's like ma'abed, different all the salt, the radish, and the egg on Shabbos. Now, actually, the Gemara brings Rav Chizki Mishmei Dabayama. He actually disagrees. He says Tznoinos, and the halacha follows like this: a radish is forbidden, but a bein mutaris, but the egg is actually permitted because the salt really doesn't do so much for an egg. Egg's not going to last so long when you're salting a radish. If you salt it, it's going to maintain it with the chemical properties, not with an egg. And actually, related to this, Rav Nachman, he says, he says, originally on Shabbos, I used to salt a pugla, a radish. Why? Why would I salt it? I said, in fact, if anything, I'm actually ruining it. So I'm not doing any tikkun. Why am I ruining it by salting it? Because the Amar Shmuel says, pugla charfi, a sharp radish, is mali, is very good. So by me weakening it, I take away the sharpness by salting it, so I'm actually making it worse, so there's no problem. But once I heard this teaching that Ula when they came along and they said, but Marava Milchi Kishri in the West, they actually go and they salt mounds and mounds, piles and piles of these radishes because it preserves it. Oh, so Mimlech L'Malchana. So I don't do any more salting 2 at a time. And this is actually the halacha. But I definitely do, as I'm eating, you dip in. There's a bunch of commentaries in Halacha L'Maisa, but there is such a concern about salting a whole bunch. And it comes up with salads and this and that, or eating at eitach with the zip, whatever. There's a problem about actually salting a whole bunch at one time. But dipping in as you're eating it, that he says I do, and that's actually going to be permitted. A third halacha, Tani Rabbi Yehuda Bar Chaviva. He says esrog, tznoin, the radish, obey, and egg. El malik li pas nachetzaina. If not for their outer husks, now Rashi explains the outer husk of the egg really means not the shell of the egg. It actually means the chelban, which is the white part of the egg. It's just because we're talking about the other two, which is esrog and the radish. Their peel is the peel that we're talking about. So therefore, by the egg, we also call it the outer peel, but it doesn't mean the shell. It means the white. So the white of the egg and the peel of the radish and that of the esrog. If not for the outer peel, these 3 food items would never leave the intestines forever. You would have all that toxic waste in the stomach, all that leaky gut. You would have all these different things that is not getting digested, because they're binding and they get hard and they block the whole digestive tract. So if not for the outer peels, the egg, the white of the egg, if they would just have the yellow and these things, it literally almost would never leave, and it would be problematic. Now, related to this halacha, Rabbeinu Chananel explains the way he says it. He says you're not allowed to make very strong salt water, that the egg floats in it, and halacha falls like that. But if the egg gets submerged, it would be permitted. So since we're mentioning that the egg floating, so we're mentioning how also regarding like the Dead Sea, the Yam D'Sdaim, where anything that's very strong water, very strong salt element, things are going to float. So related to this halacha, the Gemara says, Ki Asur Rav Dima, Rav Dima came along, he said, a person never drowned in the Siddim Sea, in the Dead Sea. Why? Because the water is very salty, and because of the salt, it prevents things from sinking, like by the Yam Melech, where people just float. You can't drown. Now, Amar Yossi says, Hafucha Siddim v'Hafucha Mila. It says a very interesting terminology. It says Siddim was turned over. Now he's talking about the Yam at the Siddim, the Sea of Siddim. It says Siddim was overturned, as we know the famous story with light, and the word is your statement is turned over. I mean, it says you're saying the opposite. What does that mean? Because you said a person never drowned in the Yam of a Siddim. What Gabu would like to have, a person never drowned, but Kashur Tava, but let's say a beam, a plank did drown. What does that mean? So Amal Abai says, no, it's not difficult. He's saying it's not necessary to say that. I don't have to say a plank. As we know, people that when there's a shipwreck, you see the person, any picture, whatever it is, hanging onto a plank. The plank never sinks. I don't have to tell you that. But even a person, that person does sink in the seas of the world. The Yam D'Sdaim, like what he's saying is that in the sea of Siddim, it doesn't sink. So the okay, but what's the halachic significance of it? What are you just telling me, like a Snapple fact or whatever? Why are you telling me that people don't sink out at sea? Says the Gemara, following interesting halachic relevance. Kihad the Rav. by Ravin, he was walking behind Rabbi Yomi, Agud the Yam of this time, by the bank of the Yam of Sidon, which is very salty, as we said, and therefore things don't sink. A person won't sink over there. So Amalei said to him, are you allowed to wash yourself from these waters on Shabbos? What's the question? Is it forbidden because of refuah, where the rabbis made a gezerah by all refuah on Shabbos because of grinding herbs? These heal the eyes because of the salty element. As some people, you put in some of these eye drops, burns. So it seems like in Talmudic times that the salty water had certain healing properties. So the significance of this question is like this. We know that the Yam is so salty that people don't drown. So the question is, can you take that water and wash your eyes on Shabbos? That's the significance because it's healing and you now do things for refuah on Shabbos. Somebody said to him, he says, okay, which actually has a very important halacha of refuah on Shabbos. Why is it permitted? Because it's not obvious that you're doing it for refuah. Now, although it actually does heal, it's permitted. Because why is refuah forbidden? It's not intrinsically forbidden. It's only forbidden because if we let you do refuah, you might come to grind herbs, which is similar to the av malacha of teichen, of grinding, to make those medicines to use on Shabbos. Now, an important halacha of refuah is actually, if it's not indicative, it's permitted. So if you have a sore throat, you're allowed to go out and drink a tea, a glazel tea, a cup of tea with some honey, even though it's going to be healing for the throat. It's not obvious. If it's obvious, as actually the next Gemara says, okay, so you're allowed to wash your face with that salt water, even though it's going to be healing your eye. What's halacha? Can you open and close your eyes? So, what's the halacha? Can you open and close so that when you open and close, it helps the salt water come in, and you're making it obvious that you're doing it because you want it to come into your eye. So on that Amalei said in Zulei Shemati, the exact question you're asking me I didn't hear, but Kiyitz B'Shemati, I heard something very similar, where it's obvious that you're doing it for healing purposes, then it would be forbidden. So when you're opening and closing your eyes, it's also obvious that you're doing it because you're not just washing your face. You want the healing waters to come inside. So therefore, this testimony that Rabbi Dimi had said, that a person never drowned in Sidon, you know what the halachic relevancy is? Since it must mean that it's very salty, and therefore it's healing, and therefore you're not allowed to open and close your eyes when you're washing your eyes with that water, because that's making it obvious that you're doing it. So let's say you're drinking a cup of tea, but you're gargling it. Gargling it, that we learned in the Gemara Brachas, that even though you're allowed to drink certain medicinal, like salty angruna, you're allowed to take it, anigre. But if you're gargling it, then it's problematic. The Mei Melech. So here also, to open and close their eyes, that would be forbidden. As we find, Domer Reb Zera, a similar halacha he's comparing over here. Reb Zera said, Zim Namalei Mishmei Rav Masna, something he would say it over the name of Rav Masna, Zim Namalei Mishmei Marukva, something he would say it over the name of Marukva, because he actually received this tradition of this halacha for both of these rabbis. Now, B'Tavayu, both of them, meaning Rav Masna and Marukva, Mishmei Davud Shmuel Levi Aaron. They said this halacha in the name of the father of Shmuel and Levi, meaning there was two teachings that they said over. One name of father Shmuel, and one in the name of Levi. Chad Amar, one said, either the father Shmuel or was Levi, Yain b'teicha ayin. Wine in the eye, which means to say you're putting it in the eye, which means that you're opening and closing the eye, you're putting in the drops in the eye. So that's forbidden because that's obvious you're doing it for refuah, and you're not doing refuah on Shabbos. Agava, and they put it on the eye, so that's mutter, it's permitted. Because people say, just washing his eyes, he's just washing his face, just putting it on the eye, that's permitted. Chadama, the other one says, whether it be the father of Shmuel or Levi, says roig tafel, raw saliva, which is from a person in the morning that didn't eat anything yet from once he woke up. So that's called like raw saliva. Afal al gava ayin. If you're putting it on the eye, not in the eye, is also going to be forbidden because it's obvious doing it for refuah. Because if you think he's just washing his eyes, it's disgusting. No one just wash his eyes with that. And the reason why we picked specifically raw saliva is because that's very strong. The saliva from the bacteria from the whole night, very strong saliva. That's the one that's going to be healing. So then afal al gava ayin, like we said, even on the eye itself is going to be awesome. Now, so again, from these two halachas, you see that when it's obvious, it's evident that you're doing for refuah, it's forbidden. And again, that's the significance, like we said, of the salt water, of the yam and the sedalim, that people don't drown, where you're allowed to put in by your eye to wash your eyes, because it looks like you're just washing for water, but you're opening and closing your eyes, that's obviously want the medicinal element to go in and heal you, which is forbidden to be done on Shabbos. Now, regarding these two teachings, we said that one was from Levi, one from the father Shmuel. Says Tistam Davud Shmuel the Amar. Let's prove that it's the father of Shmuel that he said which one of these two halachas, that yain b'teicha ayin, that the wine in the eye, that's forbidden. Al Gamayin on the eye it's mutter. How would he know that's the one that's the father Shmuel? Because with the Amma Shmuel, the fact that his son Shmuel said the following halacha. He said, "Shiur adam pita b'yayin." A person could go ahead and soak his bread and wine. V'nois mal gava ayin b'Shabbos. He could put it on his eye on Shabbos. He could put it on his eye. So the Shmuel Miman, who did Shmuel hear this from? Not the Shmuel Miman. Who didn't hear from his father? That wine on the eye is permitted, but in the eye is forbidden. Says Gemara, wait a second. According to your reasoning, then Hadam Shmuel, what do you do with the other halacha of Shmuel? Shmuel taught roiv tafel, raw saliva. I feel like even on the eye it's forbidden. So the Shmuel miavua. So the Shmuel Miman, who do you hear this from? Ilim the Shmuel Mavu. If you say he heard it from his father, because you're saying if Shmuel heard something, he heard it from his father, then El Levi B'lei Chadam, and then Levi didn't say any one of these two teachings. But you said one of these two teachings was Levi. We just showed both these halachas that Shmuel was saying, and you're saying that must have been he got it from his father. So I said, come on, no, Chadash Shmuel Mavu. Obviously, one of them he heard from his father. Chadash Shmuel Levi, one he heard from Levi, and therefore, no, it's not resolved. We don't know which one was from his father and which one was from Levi. Continuing these halachas of refuah on Shabbos, so Amar Ukva Mashmul, he says, Shiur Adam, a person could soak in water, kilayrin, which is a certain type of an eye salve, me'erev Shabbos from erev Shabbos. Nisnal Gav Einah b'Shabbos, he could put it on his eyes on Shabbos. I mean, he doesn't have to be concerned. Now, Rashi actually has a very important halacha, l'maisa in refuah. This actually is utilized in halachic practice. Rashi says that for the person himself, since he had to soak it from before Shabbos, so there's already a recognition that this is not, he's not going to do it on Shabbos. So since he prepared it from before Shabbos, one of the interesting hetem or refuah on Shabbos, if let's say you know you're going to need Tums or whatever it is, if let's say that's problematic, so you put in, let's say, marshmallow fluff from before Shabbos. So you already prepared from before Shabbos. So for you, you know you're not going to come do it on Shabbos because you obviously, if it was permitted, you wouldn't have prepared it from before Shabbos. Now, so too for everyone else who sees, they don't see you doing anything forbidden because they only see you eating marshmallow fluff. Additionally, here in this case, they think you're just washing your face. They think it's wine. They don't know what you're washing your face with. So actually, it's going to be permitted to do this type of refuah on Shabbos. A story related to this kilurin, that its healing properties, the Gemara brings that Bar Levai have a koy kamid de marukfa. He was in front of Mar Ukfa. He saw that he was using this kilurin and he was opening and closing his eyes. So Amalei said to him, wait a second. That much, the Master Shmuel most definitely did not permit, because that's obvious that what are you doing over here? You're obviously doing some type of therapeutic medicine, because why opening and closing your eyes? You're obviously trying to treat yourself, and therefore that wouldn't be permitted to be done. Another story related to this kilurin is Sholach le Rabbi Yami le Mar Ukfa. Rabbi Yami said to Mar Ukfa, he says, L'shodol Amar, let the Master send us Ma'anich kilurin de Mar Shmuel. Shmuel was a doctor, like we said before, and he made all types of ointments and treatments and medicines. So the Rabbi Yami sent to Mar Ukva, who Mar Ukva was would frequent Mar Shmuel, as we find many Gemaras previously Daf Hey and Moed Kot Daf Zayin, that Mar Ukva was the Av Bezdin in the days of Shmuel. So he says, go to Shmuel, get us some of this medicine and send it to us. So Shalach Lei, so Mar Ukva sent to Rabbi Yanai, says, Shadur Mishar Noach. He says, okay, I'm going to send you this kilurin. And the reason why is the Loi Temetzar Aina. You shouldn't say that I'm stingy, that I'm holding on to this, we're hoarding this medicine, we don't want to send it to you, so I'll send it to you. But Elahachim Shmuel, I want you to know something that Shmuel himself said, Toiva Tipis Tzoyin Shachas. And this is where you have these people that are more holistic, not into Western medicine, more into traditional medicine. You think that that medication is so good. Shmuel himself says better some cold water in the morning, which you put in your eyes, and washing your hands and feet with warm water in the evening, from all the kalur in the world, which also illuminates the eyes. So you see that traditional medicine and the functional health practitioners, they might have something to offer you in the sense of, obviously Kilar and Shmuel also help. So he also held the medicine. At the same time, don't totally discount. He says, trust me, you wash your eyes in the morning with some cold water. You go ahead and you wash your feet with warm water in the evening. That's better than all Kilar in the world. Don't just rely on medicine. Someone in the Bryce, I remember Mundim Shemir Yehudi says, better is a little drop of cold water in the eyes in the morning, and washing your hands and feet in the evening, which helps illuminate the eyes, because the body is very intricate. You'd be surprised how much your brain, your emotions is actually related to your gut, with the vagus nerve, and all of this is connected, and you'd be surprised how unique it is. Yeah, actually washing your hands and feet in the evening could actually be good for your eyes, better than all coloring in the world. Now related, Hua Ya'imer, Reb Muna used to say the following halacha. Says that Yad La'ayin, because we were talking about the eyes, so we talk about that. He says, putting your hand to your eye in the morning before you wash until it's dying, to cut it, it would be better if your hand was cut off. Why? Because there's what's called a ruach ra, however we understand it, called it literally translated as evil spirit that's on the hand, and that element could blind the eye if you didn't wash it until it's dying yet, taking it off, and so do all these things. If you put yad l'chaytim, if you put your hand to your nostril before you wash it until it's empty, cuts it, it would be better if it was cut off. Yad l'pev, you put your hand to your mouth, it cuts it, it would be better if it was cut off. Yad la'oizn, if you put your hand to the ear, to cut it, it would be better if it was cut off. Which essentially was saying that you shouldn't touch your eyes, your ears, you shouldn't do all these things before you wash it until it's done. Now, yad l'chasuda, if you put your hand by where the puncture was from the bloodletting, which is also an orifice in the person's body, also to cut it, your hand would have been better had it been cut off. Yad la'amati cuts it. If you put your hand to the male member, it should be cut off. Now, although it's simply understood that could be because that's an orifice, Rashi actually explains what he prefers, the understanding of why you're not supposed to put your hand to the male member, is nothing to do with the morning. That's in general, you should never put your hand to your male member because it could cause keri, which is a seminal emission, as the Gemara says, need that you give him a base. That the reason why your hand should be cut off is for that reason, because it causes seed to be spilled. And it's just because we were talking about the curse of the hand should be cut off, so therefore we also said the hand being cut off if it touches the male member, but that's nothing to do with the morning, that's in general. So to actually the next item, yad lafi tabas, if you put your hand by the anus, which the reason why it's called the opening of the ring is because where the excrement comes out, it's round like a ring. Also tikatz, your hand should be cut off. Rashi says there also, it's not because of the morning specifically, it's because if someone constantly puts his hand over there, it's going to bring him to have hemorrhoids. So therefore, you'd be better had you not been touching over there because it causes hemorrhoids. And so the yad, as we tend to have with kof tesam and alf, legigas, if you put your hand into a barrel that they put beer inside of it, they cut it. It would be better if his hand was cut off again because you're not supposed to touch food items or orifice in the body before you wash it until it's time in the morning. As the Gemara explains, yad, when you put your hand to the eye, misami, it blinds a person if it's before and until it's done. Yad, if you put your hand to your ear, machreshes, it can make a person go deaf. Yad, if you put your hand to the mouth or to the nostril, malapolifas, it causes some type of bad odor of the nose and of the mouth, and therefore that's why we said that yad should be cut off. It would be better had it been cut off and not touch these areas before you wash them until it's dying in the morning. One of the things we spoke about in today's daf in Shabbos Daf Kof Ches was we continue related to the halach of a Mishnah that we said that we opened up Perik Shmein Shrotzim. Besides the Shrotzim, we spoke about also a chavala in a bird that you're going to be chayiv. Obviously, like Rashi explained, it means yesh len or. If you're chayiv for chavala, it means to say that the blood is getting detached from the flesh and is going to some other entity, which is the skin. Now, related to that, we said you're allowed to write film on the or of a kosher bird. So it says, what's the chiddush? Of course. We said already in the Mishnah that there's and it's kosher, so why would you think you can't write on that? No, we had to say. Because if we only had the halach of the Mishnah, I would flip to say, but since there's holes in the skin because where the feathers come out of, there's holes over there, like in your body, there's also holes where the pores are, where the hair comes out, the hair follicle, but by a bird it's more pronounced. So I would thought to say that no, you cannot use it on that. The chiddush is that since the ink goes over it, so it's not considered significant as a whole to be problematic. Now, in spite of the fact that we said that it is that it is skin, still the Torah includes that you burn it on the mizbeach, and that's the chiddush. Because although by behema you skin it first, the Torah tells you from the word kanafav, it's coming to tell you riboy that you do burn it. Or actually, the Gemara says no. I could even tell you that no, really, it's not skin. It's not a rye. That was the second version that we said, which it was coming to support, not to ask. So then, if it's not skin, then why do I need a bimarabba that you could burn it on the mizbeach? Of course, like all other parts of the eye. Now, I would have thought to say since there's pirtzi, there's holes in the skin, it's disgusting, and therefore you don't burn it on the mizbeach. Mashmallah, you do, but again, it wouldn't be a raya that it's considered or. Then we said the skin of a kosher fish. What's the halach? So yes, it is considered or, and we know that from the laws of Tom and Tahara. We said that it's chaytzitz, unlike the meat of the fish. But, so what's the suffix that the Gemara has? The suffix is, if it can be used for tefillin, is we need a Navi to come and tell us, not of its skin, that we know that, but if he paskers zoom in it, what's with the smell? I don't know, like you finally finished with the fish, Does it really smell? Does it not? That we don't know enough factual in that sense to know if it's going to be a problem to be used for tefillin. That's why we have to wait till Yonavi to know if you could use fish skin to write a parsha of tefillin. Then related to this of the of a kosher animal that you could write tefillin on, we brought a story with Karna and Rav, and they asked him three different questions. First one was related, which was relating to writing tefillin specifically on how do you know it has to be the skin of a kosher animal. So it says, what's beficha? Beficha means to say, in your mouth, a type that could go into your mouth which is a kosher animal. So why is nevela kosher like that? Beisusi asked Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg. He says, because it's like the king is killing it. King kills it better than a person killing it. So if a person slaughters it, you could use that skin. For sure, you could use the nevela and the treifa skin for tefillin. So then why can't we eat it then? The Torah says you can't eat nevela, but you could use it to write your tefillin on. Additionally, he asked him a second question. He says, how do you know that blood of nida is specifically if it's red? That's because the pasuk says adubim kedam. So you see that blood is that which is considered red. Then he asked him, how do you know mila is ba'osim makim in the male member? So he says because of Xer Shabbat. It says Allah over here. It says arla by laws of what we call arla, which is the fruit tree. It is a place that makes a peri, and therefore here also it's makim shayis pri. How do you know it's not by the heart and the ear? Because that's arla she'ina tama. It's not complete in the sense of it just says orlas. It doesn't say orlasai, and therefore you're not going to learn from over there. Rav cursed Karna and Shmuel. Karna because he thought he was badgering him a question. Shmuel because he thought he was paining him that he can't go to the bathroom, even though he was doing it and he didn't have any sons, but again, he had daughters. A second interpretation, how do you know that it's in the male member, the bris milah? Because it says va'arol zacher. Why say va'arol zacher? Just say va'arol that you have to circumcise. It's the place that you can recognize where it's a male and not a female, which is b'osim makom. That's where you can do the bris milah. Then the next mission made a machlek is regarding salt water on Shabbos. Tanakama says you can't make hilmi on Shabbos. What's hilmi? As the Gemara explained, a lot. But you can make mei melach. What is that? That's a small amount that you could make. He says, what do you mean? As the Gemara ultimately explained, he says it's the same thing. Well, malachim meruba you can't do malach much as you could do. No, even though a little bit is going to be asa. What is permitted is only if you put the oil first, so that stops the chemical properties of it becoming very strong salt water, and there is not going to be like ma'abit. Then we taught three different teachings from a brayso of Rabbi Yehuda bar Chaviva. First one was related to that of our sugya. He says you can't make very strong salt water, even a little bit. What's considered very strong salt water is if an egg is going to float inside of it. How much is that? That is 2/3 salt and 1/3 water. And what do you use it for? You use it for muyasa to make fish brine. That's forbidden to be made on Shabbos. Second halacha says you're not allowed to salt a radish and an egg on Shabbos. Some disagree. Some say egg is permitted because it's not going to really be doing so much in the way of salting it as it's going to do for a radish. And therefore he says, one Amar said, so I stopped salting because of that when I heard that halacha, but I still dip in, which is the halacha. You could dip in and then eat. That's the way of derech achila. That's not considered a problem of ma'abed. Third teaching he said was that esrig, snain, and beya, if not for their outer peel, then it would never be coming out of the intestines because of that it gets so hard and toxic in the stomach, it wouldn't be released. It's only with the outer shell, the outer peel, that it gets released from the body. Related to that, about sinking, we said a person, which we said that regarding the Mei Melech Azan is regarding that it doesn't sink, that it floats to the top. So we brought in that a person never sank in the Yamatis Dam, in the Dead Sea. Now we said it doesn't mean only a person, it means of course Kolshkein, a beam, a plank doesn't sink in any of the seas. Now what's the nafkamina that a person doesn't sink? That must mean that it's very salty water. Like we said previously, salt is what makes it float. So the nafkamina halach is going to be, are you allowed to wash from it on Shabbos? So he said, yes, you're allowed to wash with it because it's not obvious. But you're not allowed to go ahead and open and close your eyes because that's making it evident you're doing it for food purposes. Like we said, by wine, you're allowed to do it on the eye, but you can't do it in the eye. On the eye, just like you're washing your eyes. In the eye, is like, what are you putting in your eye for? Obviously, food, that's forbidden. So to raw saliva, it's forbidden even on the eye because you're not washing your eyes with raw saliva. You're obviously doing it for medicinal purposes. It would be forbidden even on the eye. And then we concluded with yad la'ayin relating to the hand and regarding the eye. And we said all these different things, you put your hands before the Til Sidayim, they should be cut off. And the reason is because we said it has harmful effects on the person's body, where it blinds the person, makes the person go deaf. And also we talked about the male member and by the anus, that region is always forbidden. One because of producing carry, and the other one because it's going to bring to tachtanias, to bring to hemorrhage. Thank you any time for hosting us.